Hello there, good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt, and as you can see out there in the middle of the ocean somewhere, I am joined by the bearded brother, Paddy Boy, because we've got a lot to talk about. A day later, Paddy obviously unable to get on, myself returning late from the game. So we're here to talk about, of course, last night's fifth match in the new format Champions League. It was, of course, in the end, maybe a wee bit underwhelming, but still, it's a point, 8 on the board after 5, because it was Celtic 1, Club Brugge 1. Plenty of talking points about. Get them in nice and early if you're watching. Let's hear your thoughts. What was your views on the game, the performances and everything? And we'll cover it. It's going to have some discussion points, isn't it, Paddy? It's not going to be all rosy, but let's look at it this way. It's a good performance at the end of it all, but it wouldn't be boring if we just came on here and says it was brilliant.
Yeah, that's it. I did expect more, obviously, by going by the Leipzig game. Obviously, we're coming out of this full of confidence, and then you watch that first half and it kind of not demoralised you, but it kind of put you back into this stage where when are we going to get a couple of really good performances put together, especially in Europe. And I thought Bruges were good. They were a good side. They were set out well. And it was, a lot of discussion points in it, shall we say.
Well, we will get down to it. Before we do that, do a wee quick bit of housekeeping at the front end, as we say. Welcome back to the channel. If you're a continued subscriber, returning viewer, if you will, then thank you very much. The community is growing along nicely. As we always say, there's plenty of room for expansion. Help us spread the word. If you like what you see, you like what you hear, give us a wee thumbs up. You can give us a share, recommend us. That always helps. Get more like-minded Celtic folk in here. And of course, most importantly, hit the icons, the bell for the notifications, and of course, most importantly, the subscribe. Every time we go live and every time we do an upload, you will get notified. You never miss anything. If you want to chip in like San Fran or indeed the original 420 somewhere, you can donate to the channel by way of membership. There's no extra content at this moment in time. However, it does help with the running, because putting together this wee gig still costs ourselves a wee bit in our pockets. If you want to get us elsewhere, plenty of ways to do it. We're on TikTok. Paddy takes care of that one. We are on Blue Sky. That newfangled thing is out there. And of course, we're also on Spotify, so you can catch up with us on the move. Plenty of ways to support this channel. And speaking of support, thank you, 420. Whoever gets that membership, very well done to yourself and well deserved. So, Paddy, as we say, let's get down to business, because it was a good performance in the end. We got ourselves 1 point in the bag. And as I say, let's get this right out straight at the front end. If I had said to you before a draw had been made with 8 games in the Champions League that you would be given 8 points, known blindly who you had and known our previous form, Paddy, would you have taken it?
Honestly, I'd have bit your fucking hand off for it, mate. Of course I would have. Thanks very much, guys. That's really, really appreciated. Listen, coming into it, Steve, when you mentioned it and you looked at the first kind of 5 games, we did look at it and we broke it down at the time and we said, we kind of looked at this game as 3 points. And that might be us overselling ourselves or whatever. But listen, 8 points at this stage is a decent amount of points. With young boys still to come to Parkhead and going away to Zagreb. Listen, going away to Zagreb's not going to be an easy feat as well. They're flying. At the minute, they're playing really well.
They're right behind us. Again, they're maybe an RV surprise package with the wonder of this new format where teams that are less fancy get a chance in it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, obviously, they lost last night. Was it 3-0 to Dortmund?
Yeah, Dortmund are beating most folk, aren't they? Let's be honest here.
They're playing really well. So you can't really judge them on that game. But listen, going away from home, as a Celtic fan, you know it's hard. Listen, we've seen it so many times going away from home. The result in Atlanta was obviously incredible. But going to that one for me is going to be a biggie. If we get anything from that, then that to me is a bonus as well. And then going into young boys, you would expect the 3 points for that. And then the Battle of Britain, the Villa game at the end. You'd hopefully that both of us are through at that point, and it's just a game where we can go out and enjoy
it and relax, as you says. And that's the thing, Paddy. You know, last night when we break it down after the smoke settled, after maybe the initial sort of disappointment of it, we've got to come away and we've got to look at it with positive eyes. Yeah, do you know what? When we done the draw and we spoke about it and we done the sort of reaction to that and we profiled it, we says, look, we've got 4 fantastic home fixtures, 4 that
Yeah.
we really can get our teeth into. Now, the biggest optimist might look at that and say maximum 12 points. But
Yeah.
again, if you look at how we'd previously performed past 2 seasons and home form, and the notion of Celtic Park being a fortress wasn't quite there, I had said at the time that I was shooting for between 7 and 9 points from those home games. That's how I set my stall out. Obviously, as we slaughtered Bratislava in a really good performance against Leipzig, and the points gain, it's fandom, innit? You're entitled. You know, your perception, your expectations maybe shift a wee
Yeah.
bit. Sometimes, maybe not correctly so. We can always be, and we should be, full optimism. That's what being a fan's all about. But maybe that comes into it, isn't it? You know, we maybe took Club Brugge a wee bit for granted and walked into that with a level of expectancy. Not entitlement, but I think some people had maybe thought, like, we'll just blitz this one.
Oh, listen, you look at the Leipzig game, Celtic against Leipzig, and the atmosphere in that game was phenomenal. We went 1-0 down, and then straight away we got back into the game. And from then on, in the Leipzig game, I thought we owned it. We were brilliant. And that became, for me, near the end, like a training game. We were that good. So it was absolutely brilliant. And then going into the game last night against Bruges, obviously, yeah, we did underestimate them. They came in there and they were very well drilled. You look at the way they were pressing, the passing. I mean, they broke up the midfield instantly. They were just 3 passes and the midfield didn't even know what was happening. They null and voided it constantly.
Well,
So
see just to come in hot on that, Paddy, and jump on that, just like a wee sort of push back on it. Now, I've seen mixed responses on social media and accounts and various folk that I've spoke to them about that game. And there's a real divide now. I think we've got to be quite honest here. See, at the end of the day, we found a way to get points, right? Now, I think in times gone by, recent times,
yeah,
we get down 1-0, particularly in that kind of fashion. You know, it's been a long time, hasn't it, since we've had an actual, what you'd call a proper European stinker. Now, look, we can look at Dortmund and people always bring it up, but
yeah,
that was one of the ones. You know what I mean? Celtic doing well in Europe and then boom, sucker punch, Snyder a goal, OG, guy sent off, something like that, right? It's been a good while since we've had a proper European howler. And seeing times gone by, I just get the feeling that, particularly the way we'd been playing, and we'll get on it, the first half was very, the way I describe it, was really, it was mundane, it was lackadaisical, it was just not happening. See,
yeah,
at the backdrop of that kind of performance, I think previously that would have just ate into us and we would have quickly and very steadily fallen away in that game. So you've got to look at the positive in that side. Yeah, literally a game of 2 halves, but we were able to pick ourselves back up off the canvas, start making a dent, and ultimately get a goal and find a way to not lose against adversity. We probably could have went on, possibly, I think, and pushed them a wee bit more and got a win. But the most important thing was is we bedded into the game and we found a way to get the vital points on the boards. We came away with something at the end of it rather than a big clap or great performance there for 45 minutes and you get nothing.
yeah. That's it. Listen, the first half for me was lethargic. You mentioned a lot of words, but I'll stick with lethargic. Sanfran there said as well, God bless Casper's fingertips. That was right at the start of the second half.
Aye.
Casper pulls off that save, and you know what? That was absolutely outstanding. That was brilliant at that moment in time. We really needed it. And for me, it got the crowd up a little bit as well. And I know he didn't have the best of nights, but my wee pal, my favourite, Rio Hatate, he had a shot from outside the box that was maybe about a yard at the outside of the post. But you know what? It got the crowd lifted. And I think it needed it because it was just up until that point, the crowd didn't seem involved in the game. It was very quiet
Yeah.
for Celtic Park. And at that point, when Hatate had that shot, it seemed to give a little bit of belief. And then we started to progress. We started to go from there on. And then obviously Valle and Bernardo coming into the mix changed things for me.
Yeah.
And then obviously we end up getting the goal. So
as we say, but you know, we'll work through it. We'll just generally speak through it. Just again, let us know your thoughts in terms of, and we'll get on to it individual performances. Let us know, whatever it is. If you want to talk about an individual performance, fire it in. We'll get discussions. What do you think? What do you think the reasons for that lackadaisical first half was? Do you think we went into this a bit with too much expectancy? Do you think that's playing on the crowd? Get some ideas in there, get some thoughts in there. We'll try and bring up as many, make you all involved in this conversation, because we're really just going to chew the fat over this one rather than break it down and say, oh, at X minutes this happened. Let's talk about the performance and let's look towards what it means and how we can progress. But yeah, I just want to touch on what you said there, Paddy. Obviously, I was at the game myself there, and I've got to admit, it was a strange environment. The atmosphere was really, really peculiar. Start of the night, of course, pre-game, with the songs and everything, it was bouncing. That music hits, the big star balls getting waved, and it's, raptures, it's going mental. But then I think that it very, very quickly found a level. It was almost eerily quiet. Now, I was sitting right below the boys, and credit to them, start to finish, they were going at it and making as much noise as they possibly could. And I could obviously see directly across the Green Brigade doing similar and doing their best to G it up. But the general all round the stadium, out with those fan groups, it was very, very quiet. It literally was at times only singing when we were on the ascendancy. Yeah. And I don't know how much that maybe played into what was happening on the field. When you've got players looking a wee bit disjointed, when you've got the players looking a wee bit sort of, I'm going to say it, a bit shell-shocked, a wee bit out of ideas early on. I don't know if that maybe had a wee knock-on effect.
Obviously, it's not one of the things we only sing when we're winning. Celtic Park's a cauldron, and it's one of the places where you go now and people are scared to go. Like you said, that roar at the start just gets everybody really going. So for me, it was, it wasn't there. It didn't have that Celtic Park feel for the first half. Obviously, when we got back into the game, like I say, after that Hatate shot, it seemed to lift it. But up until that point, there just seemed to be nothing. I'm watching it on the TV. Listen, I'm not at the stadium. I can't actually see or hear what's going on there. Obviously, I can see it. But yeah, listen, for me, there wasn't enough pressure for the fans. There wasn't that Celtic performance side of it for them. And I don't know whether that's affected it or not.
Yeah. I mean, see, like, talk about the first half, because we'll just work through that, Paddy. Like, I think to a man, we could say that it was generally poor across the sort of body of the team. Obviously, we'll just touch on that initial starting lineup. We sat here and we says, do we think there's going to be any particular changes? Looking at, obviously, the left-back position, as you mentioned, we get by very early in the second half, quickly after about the 50-minute mark. I think the manager realises that change needs to happen. But we start with Greg Taylor. Much more like Greg Taylor, as we well know, there's been question marks from fan bases the world over and seasons over about what he's up to. I think on large, Taylor has had a very good sort of tail end of last season and a really good start to this season. He's been peaks and troughs since he's came back in, but we go with him. And then obviously the big call as well is Arne Engels. Do we, protect him a wee bit, given the fact that some of his performances have been flat? Do we introduce Bernardo? No, the manager sticks to the status quo. He goes where he was there. Just on that, did that initially surprise you? Was there any surprises there? Did you feel comfortable and confident with what was put out?
Yeah, listen, looking at the team, I was quite happy looking at the team. Arne Engels in there, like I've said before, he's our big signing. He's the man that we brought in for these kind of games. And for me, he's not been there. He hasn't been performing to the level that we expect. Now, everybody says that he's not just going to come in, he's young, give him time, blah, blah. When you come in with that kind of price tag, I'm expecting you to hit the ground running. I'm expecting you to be a proper investment in there, a proper player. And for me, he didn't really have that. Greg Taylor to start, do you know what? I think Greg had probably earned this place. Vi's been good as well, and he's been good in flashes for me. Obviously getting his wee appearances here and there, but at the end of the day, Greg Taylor is our bona fide left back. He's the person that's going to be there, and Vi has to fight for that, and I think he's doing the right thing. I think Vi is going to cement a place. He is going to eventually push Greg Taylor out, but at this moment, Greg Taylor is your number one left back.
Well, that's going to be interesting, Paddy, because obviously he gets a good sort of body of the game, almost a full half pretty much last night. And we hadn't seen him for a wee bit there. As I said, I was raising questions. I sat on here with Josh and I was thinking, what's that going about? Obviously, there was those rumours that Barcelona potentially wanted him back. It would appear that's completely flipped in its head and he's now going to remain with us, which is also a very, very good thing. So I think if that's going to be the case and that's stuck on, we need to start trying to get him in. Do I think that when he came on, he was night and day and fantastic? No, he wasn't. He's involved, gets a bit of the assist going on with Maeda, obviously, which is nice to see. Do I think he had a steadier game than Taylor or a steadier half? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's small improvements. But no, look, Taylor comes in and he starts, and we don't want to make it a witch hunt. We don't want to pile on. You know, we put out some content on social media, and we says, I think when we break this down, we just look at it, you know, critically and analytically from what we saw in the night. We don't want to hop onto players. It is what it is. We're just here to talk about it. Let's not try to pile on. But I do think we also have to be completely honest with ourselves there. And as I says, to a man in the first half, I thought we were very, very poor. However, for me, I felt Greg Taylor, unfortunately, was particularly poor. I felt that in terms of the whole back line, no one covered themselves, showered themselves in glory, but Taylor was particularly bad. Now, he's going up against Skov Olsen. I came on here, talked at length about what it is. Now, if I know that, and I'm just a guy sitting on the internet, then there's, you know, our guys should have known exactly analytics or, you know, backroom staff would have done and deep dived and briefed him on it. Yeah. He's going to run at you. He's going to be powerful. He's going to be tricky. He's going to try to cut in. And time again, I feel it just happened. Now, where I will give him throw him a wee bone and say, I understand, he kept coming in central, into midfield. Why? Because the midfield was really struggling. And I understand he was trying to create overloads. He was trying to be there and offer a wee bit of backup. But unfortunately for us, they were quickly pass and play through any level of press that we were trying to offer. And even that press in that first half wasn't really there. It was notional. We were just moving towards the man. And it was with very great ease that they could just pass and break our lines and get somewhere about 3/4 up the pitch. And unfortunately for Taylor, more often than not, his was the space that was exposed. And Trusty, who I think for me over the piece was my man of the match, done well at mopping it up largely.
Yeah.
But it left us exposed.
Of course it did. And do you know what, right? They done to us what we were trying to do to them. And that's basically that. Listen, Kaiser, we agree with you, but to an extent, listen, they done to us what we were trying to do to them. When you seen their left back and their right back coming into the middle of the park to help out, and it was just a matter of quick passes, quick feet. Everyone in our midfield, Hatate, Engels, and even McGregor, as much as I hate to put the captain in that position,
you've got to know. Listen, no one's able to avoid any level of criticism, scrutiny. To a man, for me, mate, the midfield were all very, very poor, and I include the captain in that.
Yeah, they were just a yard off the pace for me. They just seemed to be not even there. Like Callum was chasing shadows half the game, and these aren't the best players in the world, are they? It's not as if you're up against Modric and Kroos and Rodri and things like that. You're not up against incredible top of the range players here. This is a run-of-the-mill Bruges team for me. This isn't going to be. It's not the pièce de résistance, is it? Let's face it. But for me, they've got to be doing better in there. I think Bernardo, when he come on, showed a bit of bite. I think Luke McCowan would have been a good one to come on that as well, because obviously he would have shown you a little bit of passion in there. I think he would maybe have been a good replacement for McGregor, but obviously in that kind of environment, that kind of
realistically,
game,
you're never going to take off the captain.
Of course you're not. Of course you're not. But I think when you look at the game, if you're watching it, as I was as a fan, if Brendan's watching that and he sees that Callum's struggling, then you change it. And for me, Callum probably had to come off. Hatate was dead on his feet after about 60 minutes. And I don't know how, because he was running about basically just, again, chasing shadows. So it was frustrating to watch. It really was, to see that, because we're the team that normally dominate the middle of the park. We're the ones where that's where our magic comes from.
Well, Paddy, see on that, I just want to touch on the actual Bruges team in general, right? As we say, there's been really mixed views on what that Bruges team were when they came about. Now, there's never any, and I hate that, but it is true, there's never any easy games in the Champions League. You only have to look at how that has been panning out. You only have to look at that table to see that some of the big boys are really struggling. Now,
Yeah.
is that to do with maybe the new format? Absolutely. But it just shows that no one is invincible. No one is not going to take your hats. I see it. Yep, Rangers are 1-0 up. Good for them. And I'll do the Moyes. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh, good for them. Good for them. But no, and also, by the way, thank you to those that are watching it, because we know that they're on and we know that you're watching, right? There's nothing wrong with it. That is what it is. But no, the thing with Bruges, back to ourselves and back to our game, Paddy. I think they were the way I describe them is they were an organised team.
Yes.
I don't think that people say we made them look good. I wouldn't. That's subjective turn of phrase, that one. I think we just didn't play our game, so it made it relatively comfortable. That's how I would describe it. We were quite, as we said, we'll keep bringing it up. We were slow, we were ponderous, we were lackadaisical, whatever way you want to put it. That's what we were. So without that level of intensity in our game, we become distinctly average, very ordinary. And that's what happened. And for me, Vakinen was, we often laugh and say, oh, Cal McGregor's got the run of the games against Rangers. That's what we saw in that game. He was absolutely everywhere, and he was just knocking the ball about, spraying it around at absolute will, with nobody laying a glove on him, nobody getting close to him, nobody shutting him down, nothing happening. Now, I think when you look at the game, they had a good couple of shots. Now, stats on paper will tell you that it was very balanced and that we had as many shots than them. It didn't feel that way. It felt that they had the better quality chances, where our goalkeeper was actually worked and had to tip things round the post and make proper saves, whereas ours were maybe down the throat at them.
Yeah.
But I don't think they had any massive quality. I profiled the three players, and I thought we kept Skov Olsen, we kept Zolis relatively quiet. I thought we'd done not too bad there. Vakinen stood out because he was allowed to, but they didn't seem to have any massive cutting edge where it was like we've said before, if you make mistakes at this level, you will be punished. I didn't feel that. No disrespect, they are the Belgian champions. They are of a certain degree of quality. Are they better than Atalanta? Absolutely not. Are they better than RB Leipzig? Absolutely not. So I think for me, very organised, and they didn't have to do much to stop us playing because we essentially didn't implement it to begin with.
Yeah, they nullified all of our danger men. Every time the ball went to Nicholas Kuhn as well, AJ didn't have the overlap on him. I was kind of screaming for that at most points as well. Normally we see that kind of, it's like telepathy, isn't it, when we see the two of them playing. So when Kuhn was getting the ball, AJ was coming inside, and that's simply because the left back wasn't going towards Kuhn. Kuhn was getting marked by someone else in the middle of the park, and the left back was sitting waiting on the overlap. So AJ was having to try and adapt his runs, and he's coming inside, and then Kuhn's not wanting to pass it into him, so he's trying to then beat the player, and it lost all of our game plan essentially, and we didn't change it. And that's what I'm saying. In the first half, you're watching that there, and you're going, right, every chance that we got, every time the ball went to Daizen Maeda, for instance, as well, Daizen wasn't beating the player. He was taking the ball and he was trying to pass it. And then there was at one point he puts the ball by the player and he runs and he gets the ball into the box. And you thought, right, that's it. He knows now he's got the beating of the player, so he's going to go for it from there on. And he did a few times, but not as much as what we would normally see. And I don't know whether it was a confidence thing. I don't know whether it was nothing to do with ability. Obviously, we've got the ability to do it, or whether it was they were just getting marked out of the game. Because every time we had the ball, Bruges just seemed to close in. They just seemed to man mark every person. I look at the 12 players on the park at most points, didn't it?
And that's the thing. I think for me, the frustrating thing, mate, was the fact that we were just so slow in the uptake. What we're used to seeing, the high intense press, pushing guys, getting forward, none of it was happening. There was a lot of side-to-side passing, and that was brought up in the comments there. Side-to-side passing. I think as well, we look at it, we had a lot of possession at times. We just weren't doing anything with it. It was like a flashback to, last season at the start off when we were frustrated, where we had all this possession and we were just ponderously knocking it amongst ourselves. A lot of back passing, a lot of retreating back, and we'll get on to obviously the goal, case in point. But for example, you look at the midfield three, Hatate for me was very, very poor in the first half. he was trying things, yes, but literally it felt every time he made a pass, not even the risky passes, those were getting lost quite comfortably.
Yeah.
Engels, I really just don't have a word to describe what I saw. There was no level of real commitment, unfortunately, for me. There was numerous times where it fell into press and the guy was getting in behind it, and he was quite literally turning round with his hands like that and pointing to folk and, just no going, he's got away from me, I might as well chase him. And it just felt a wee bit sort of two steps behind and no real commitment to the cause. The game plan, like, chuck it out the window. And I think players very quickly got deflated, which was something that really, really surprised me. I've not seen that for a long time from Celtic. In terms of McGregor, he was getting the ball, but it was crab-like. It was, yep, there you go. You have it attack. I'll give it back. Right, okay, there you go. You have it, Carter Vickers. Oh, there you go. It was nothing. There was nothing there. And I think that's what cost us in the first goal. So let's go on to that first goal, Paddy. Loads of people are sitting here and crucifying and playing the blame game, right? Let's get it straight out of here. If that was Taylor, if that was Scales, if it was any other player in the park, folk would be going off their nut. Like, it's just fact, they would. Now, I don't want to. We're not going to jump on Carter Vickers. We're not going to, hound them. But it is a bad mistake. And I think, to caveat that, I thought defensively, doing the defensive part, he was actually quite robust. He was very good, actually. Very good's maybe a push. Good. He had a good game defensively. But all the other stuff was what really concerned me. For some reason, we kept giving the ball to him. Now, if you ever notice, usually it would be Trusty, usually it would be Scales when he was in there. Typically, or Welsh, we would always go to that left centre half. That's who the ball gets rolled out to advance the play, to move into the midfield and push it around and make the passes. We kept giving it to Carter Vickers, and I just felt that he didn't look like he was comfortable with the ball. Being not that he's not comfortable with the ball at his feet, he is, but what I mean is he was not comfortable with being in possession and being the guy to make that first important pass.
Yeah.
And you saw that. There was times where, you remember, he was actually just walking with the ball, walking into the midfield. So, like, right, where am I going? Who's giving me the ball? And it kept happening time to time. So I was surprised that we kept going to the wall, Carter Vickers, and giving him that. Kept going to that well and saying, take the ball, build the play, start this off, because it just wasn't working.
Yeah, when you seen him coming into the middle of the park as well, you seen Callum McGregor at most points telling him to actually run with the ball, because obviously he's looking for the pass in there, but he's got a bit of space. There's not really anybody pressing him. So if he would have pressed forward, and Callum's telling him most of the time, go with the ball. And he's, like you said, he's at a walking pace, and he's just passing the ball back to either Trusty or back into Johnson or even back to Casper. And for me, he didn't look confident. He didn't look confident going forward. He didn't look confident while he was on the ball at most points. Listen, it's a random mistake, and it's nobody's to blame. You can blame Casper for being out of position. You can blame CCV for not looking up as he's passing the ball. You can blame Kuhn for having to pass the ball back to him. Listen, it's one of these things. It's a freak of nature. It's a goal that comes that we don't do often. That's how it's so hard to take.
Yeah, as San Fran says, look, Carter Vickers owes us nothing. He's been consistently one of our best players, and no exception to that. That has not changed because of some stupid OG. It hasn't. It says we're just here to talk about what went essentially wrong in the first half. We still have a brilliant result at the end of it. We're still in a very strong position, and as we've said time and time again, this is ultimately not really going to dictate our pathway to hopefully the next stage. It's just a bump in the road, maybe one that we didn't expect. But I want to bring this up. So as you say, put this together. This is as it happened. So from your top left, top right, bottom right, as you look at it, this was the position. Now, it was a catalogue of errors. We get ourselves pushed back, as you say. It's the same reason that we're in this position. We get the ball midfield, nobody really commits, there's no real dynamic movement, nobody's particularly looking for it, and we find ourselves with a back pass. So it comes in there, and this is, for me, not to play the blame game, but to try and work out how it goes wrong. Now, for me, I've got to say it's a combination of errors, but I do believe that Kasper Schmeichel, within reason, has got to carry the can a wee bit. Now, if you look at him in the top there, he's the centre. As we come back with the ball, there's two around. two around the player with the ball, and obviously you've got Carter Vickers centre above the attacker. Now, as the play progresses, you'll see in the second picture, he indicates play it down the line to me at the end of the box. Now, as the player advances, you quickly see he's surrounded. That pass that Kasper Schmeichel is asked for, quite frankly, is never on. It's not on for the start, but he's got to trust who's in behind him, that's the, or who's he's looking at, in other words, Kasper Schmeichel, that's the only ball that he can play. But by the time he gets swamped out, he can't do it. His only option, really, to find a player, if we want to stick to this principle of playing out for the back, is Carter Vickers. Other than that, he shells it out the pitch. He shells it out to his right, or sorry, his left, or he does pass it to Carter Vickers, but he does. Now, Kasper Schmeichel then later in an interview states that he said, essentially shouted man on, right? But see, when he's swamped around, Kasper Schmeichel's still outside. He's far too gone from his line. So again, Carter Vickers gets a decision, and if it has been shouted man on, then again, he's got an easy decision to make. He either shells it out the park and just deals with it, or if he's feeling fancy, and I don't think, look, the way he played, his confidence levels at that time, he chops back in himself and he creates the space and sells the dummy to the defender. So for me, it's a catalogue errors, but I think it starts with Kasper Schmeichel giving him a bum steer, he pointing to a pass that's never going to happen, and more to the point, pointing for a pass that's never going to happen and running out to where imaginary pass is going to go.
Aye, it's like I say, listen, it's a freak goal. It's one of the ones where you could throw the blame at anybody, but yeah, listen, I totally get that. The confidence was going to midfield was non-existent. So Nicholas Kuhn in that position, running back towards goal because of their high press, just shows you what kind of game that team were playing. I mean, Bruges were decent. They were good with a high press. Like I say, they done to us what we've been doing to other teams, and we messed up. We made a mistake. Fair play to Kasper, obviously, for getting the players G'd up again, getting Callum involved and getting the guys in here, and just saying, right, basically, we start again, we go again here. I thought that was quite a good touch. It's nice to have so many leaders. Nice to have so many leaders on the park, so that we've got the confidence and the ability to do that, to progress on. So that was nice to see.
Yeah. Well, in terms of that first half, Paddy, there isn't really much to write home about. I think that after we have the wee intervention on the park, or the wee powwow, or whatever you want to call it, the G and up session to say, look, we're in a bit of disarray here. Don't worry about it. Let's get ourselves on. There's slight shoots of improvement. There's slight signs of improvement. I still feel that the midfield don't do too much, but what we do is we get the ball out to Kuhn a wee bit more.
Yeah.
We allow him to get his foot on the ball, and strangely, I don't know if you noticed as well, quite early in that first half, we switched the wingers. We switched the wingers over opposite sides for a sort of, it only lasted for about 5 minutes, but we did it. Obviously, we felt we weren't getting any purchase from either of them, and the change didn't work, so we reverted back. But as we did, we started getting the ball into Nicholas Kuhn, and he did start trying to make a couple of runs. There's a couple of times as well where we get a wee ball in behind to Kyogo. Flash chances, Paddy, nothing really. It was a thankless task for Kyogo, lots of running, but we weren't picking up the ball in advanced enough positions to actually find the runs, regardless of what he was doing, I just felt.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, we've said about it before with Kyogo. Every game, you always get that running. What he does off the ball is absolutely incredible, and he drags defenders here, there, and everywhere. He'd be an absolute nightmare to play against. And he was still doing the runs. He was doing them to no avail. Like you said, the end ball wasn't ever coming. Nicholas Kuhn did have a cracking run towards the end of the first half when I think he beats about 4 or 5 players and nutmegs one inside the box, and eventually doesn't really get any purchase on it to get the ball into the back of the net. So I think he'd scored an absolute world if he'd
I felt for that wee point, Paddy. I felt that it was the first point in that game, and it was within the remaining 5 minutes of the half where I actually felt we can pick ourselves back up here. I never felt, despite how frustrated I was, I didn't feel that by saying I think we'll pick ourselves up, I didn't feel that we were ever like out the game, this game's gone, we're going to lose this. It was just the first time I felt truly optimistic. and started to see the signs that they were doing something. And as I said, you could feel that across the stadium. There was a lot of humming and hawing, there was a lot of huffing and puffing, and you could tell it was getting on to folk, but there was a real bit of excitement when Kuhn started to make those runs. Maeda was trying his best, but he got on his goal. It's a fantastic goal, but despite his goal and given man of the match, I think that's just because he scored a goal.
Yeah.
By large, Maeda was pretty poor and all, for being honest. It was like at times the Maeda, just none was coming off for him. The ball was bouncing off him. He was, just running into his man and things like that kept on happening. But I really felt that last remaining 5 minutes of the first half that we really could have scored. And I turned and says to Pat, I think this is the optimum time, mate. If we score here, we'll go on and we'll absolutely storm this. And then I know it's nitpicking. Olsen goes down. Oh, my shoulder. Right when we were on the ascendancy, and Hattie puts the ball to play, and I was going off my nut because that is just gamesmanship. They knew that we were coming on to them, and they done what they needed to do to kill the game. And see, as soon as that ball went out, that was it. You could have just packed up, blow the whistle half time. I just felt that we need to be a wee bit more savvy with things like that.
Yeah.
We were extending with the ball, all their guys were out of position, and you saw them walking around, and the fans are shouting, "Move it, move it, move it!" And then he kicks the ball out. Just stuff like that. I know it's a real petty nitpick, but it's stupid things like that I don't like to see in Europe when you're looking for something. By your own hand, you're killing the game. You're killing the momentum.
Yeah, and listen, I said it last night as well. I'm sitting watching it with two of the boys on here, and when the boy goes down and Hatate's kind of looked across, and I'm shouting at the screen, when you've got to be selfish, go, just run with it, leave him. Doesn't matter. It's not a head knock. The referee can't
exactly. That's the point. A lot of people say that behind me. Not a head knock.
Just go. It's not a head knock. Go. See if he's down, he's holding his head, or it's something like what happened with Christian Eriksen, and they're down, and there's an issue. Then by all accounts, kick it out of the park and do it fair play, like the FIFA fair play thing there. But he's down holding his shoulder. It's an injury that he's caused himself. Nobody was anywhere near him. It's an injury that he caused on himself. So what's the point? We're not obliged to kick the ball out. We're not obliged to do anything for him. So, in my opinion, 2's up, pal. Just keep playing.
Exactly. Well, Paddy, we go on at half time. We're 1 down. It's been a lukewarm performance at best. It really poor. There was absolutely, such as we're sitting here, we're just talking about individual performances and a couple of mistakes. There really was nothing to get excited about other than that last sort of 5 minutes and Kuhn getting his foot in the ball and making a couple of runs and trying to get the ball in behind. I think for that, it's what it is. As Frank says there, off the back, a lot of folk were getting on his back, CCV, but otherwise it was solid, and that is very much the way it goes. I think that defensively, despite our warts and all that we had in that first half, we by large kept them at bay. Yeah, they had a couple of shots, the couple of shots and 1 or 2 moments, that was not too nice. But I thought the guys, the centre halves in particular, really stuck in. Surprisingly, we've mentioned Taylor, and even I think surprisingly, the work rate of Alistair Johnson was a wee bit invisible at points, and that was that. Second half comes in, same team comes out, not going to lie, very, very surprised to see that, but very quickly, and it was good to see inside 10 minutes, wasn't it? The manager says, nope, he sends out Bernardo, he sends out Valle, and it's Taylor and Engels, who I think anybody watching this, anybody at the game, anybody watching TV, there's nothing to be disgruntled about that. The right calls early on.
Yeah, 100%. And just as they come on as well, I believe Scott Olsen had that chance before they come on, because Taylor was defending it. So the ball comes over the top of Taylor, and Scott Olsen's caught it in the volley. And it was right over the top of the bar. On another day, that's in, and you're 2-0 down, mate. He should have buried that. I've seen him bury it many a time, even for Denmark. And at that point, you were calling for the change to be made. You were calling for Taylor to come off, and obviously Engels, because for me, it was null and void in there. I can't remember the last time Arne Engels had a good performance in a Celtic jersey. Probably Slovan Bratislava game, if we're going back to that. But for me, he needs to up his game. He needs to really show something. For the fans to get behind him. I know the guy's struggling. I know he's coming in and he's got that big weight on his shoulders of the heavy price tag and stuff. But listen, you're a professional footballer, mate.
So
he's got to up it.
I want to just discuss that a wee bit, right? And you know yourself, it's a contentious decision, not decision. It's a contentious subject. Sorry. Anytime we dip in to speak about Engels, anytime we speak about Aida, and whether it's on here, whether it's on any other platform, whether it's in social media, unfortunately, you can't seem to have an opinion on it without you being out to get somebody. And that's not the case, right? We've sat on here, sung his praises, I built him up based on my bit of research I've done with him, what I saw him, and what early on. And I still genuinely believe that he's going to be a great player for Celtic. I think we're not going to see the best out of him until season 2. Now, for some people, that might be too late because, as you says, I expect, and your own words, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. You says at that price, and that I expect, right? And that is the thing. I think we forget that he is very young, 21. He's coming in with relative unexperience. Now, I know people point me at I'm saying San Fran because I was reading his comment there. They'll point me to Bernardo and the likes. And some guys, like Bernardo, are just the anomaly. There's young guys who are just that bit more ready, that bit more prepared, and they can hit the ground running, right? That happens. But for everyone like that, there's people that need to find their feet. And I think he's very much a guy that's in that bracket. However, if we just look at recent performances, just for balance, you can't sit there and really defend him and say that he's been good because he hasn't. Yeah. That doesn't mean he's a bad player. That doesn't mean that he's not going to come good. That doesn't mean that he's not worth the money. It's just factual. And I hate to say it, he was a disaster last night for me.
Yeah.
He really was. It was as near as anonymous as you'll see. And as I say, the only thing that irked me more, everybody in that midfield was misplacing passes. So it's not exclusive to him.
Yeah.
But what really irked me was the amount of times he get turned and it was a half-baked, like, oh, I've got to chase you now.
Yeah.
And it was visible. And as I say, watching it for the stands, I could see it. Because obviously on the TV, you only see the pan out of where it is. But there's times he's throwing his arms up around and just, you can tell the way the head goes when he runs and stuff. And I was like, this guy needs to get pulled out here. Yeah. And I think that's what we need to do. I think that's the important thing. I love the fact that the manager's confident in him and keeps playing him. But I really think it's time to balance the books a wee bit more with him and protect him. Maybe he will show better form coming on to impact a game rather than starting a game.
Possibly. And you know what? I believe we'll see that against Ross County. I think we'll start a different side come Saturday. I think obviously we have to, Vi has to start in there. I think Alistair Johnson will be rested. We'll start Tony Ralston in there. I think we'll stick with Trusty and CCV. Mm-hmm. I think middle of the park, you're going to see possibly McCown and Bernardo in there along with Callum. Mm-hmm. And then up front, it'll be probably, I'd like to see Yang again. I thought when he come on, again, he looks as if he's fit, he's going forward. I never thought I'd be saying this, but I'd like to see him get a wee start. I don't want to make too many changes. Obviously, we've seen that before. You ring 9 changes of the squad and you end up struggling with it. So, obviously, Dyser and Kyogo, I probably would start with them up front as well. Mm-hmm. But then, obviously, you've got to be mindful that you've got Aberdeen game coming up thick and fast just after it as well. So, going into it, yeah, you're wanting to see a raft of changes, but enough to get the game over the line, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Well, the changes do come on, as we say, and for me, I think in general, after that 10-minute period, the manager identifies what we've already known.
Yes.
As we say, San Fran says, the dog in the street now, Bernardo and, Valle to come on for Engels. It was clearly obvious, but I think he was just giving him that wee 5-minute benefit of the doubt to say, look, go and show me something. And it was just, it remained. So early changes there. If I had my way, I would have changed Patati and all. Hell, I wouldn't have even spared McGregor, if I'm being honest. Everybody was up for grabs, but he makes the right choices. And very quickly, I'm not going to say it's like, oh my God, super subs, what an impact it makes, but it just felt a wee bit more zip in the play. I felt like a wee bit more purpose, and it was funny, and I don't know what you think, Chris. We've had our descriptions, Josh says he describes Bernardo's been like a bulldog, and I see like a wee mountain goat. And there's a couple of guys behind me and says, that boy Bernardo, he never looks really particularly graceful on the ball, but he's very effective. And I thought that he'd get on. I thought he was picking up the ball, he was digging in, breaking up play, getting turnovers, winning the ball a wee bit more, and moving it about better. He was getting the passes around and trying to push it around. And then obviously we do get a wee bit of purchase. Vae's involved with the Daisen Maeda goal. It gets us back in terms. And for Daisen Maeda's first half and all the issues that were with it, what a goal, mate. I mean, that wee chop back is sublime. And then in classic Daisen form, it wouldn't be a brilliant Daisen finish without him falling his arse whilst it goes into the net.
Yeah, listen, what a finish. It's some ball. It's a good touch in from Vae. And like you say, the wee chop inside, and then, what a shot. Absolutely cracking finish in off the post. Always looks better when it goes in off the post, doesn't it? Keeper was nowhere. Keeper didn't even see it till it was in the back of the net. Daisen thoroughly enjoyed it. So did the crowd by the sounds of it, and it seemed to lift us again, didn't it?
It did lift us.
Absolutely boosted Celtic Park, yeah.
It really made a difference. I know it's stated obvious, Steve, but when that goal, we needed that.
Yes.
We needed something to show, and see for it to come at a stage where you've had your substitutions come on and there's been an impact after positive substitutions. It made you feel, right, okay, here we go, there's a real chance here. And we do not too bad. I think at that point we bed in. Do we create any particularly great chances in the match? No. There was a real lack of cutting edge. I felt that everybody's commitment levels went up.
Yeah.
I was criticising Maeda and saying that not really much was coming off for him, but he just was buzzing about again, and he was, flying out of tackles. He get fouled quite a lot. He was winning a lot of fouls just by digging in, and I like to see that. And somehow Bernardo, he was breaking up play. He was making things a wee bit more effective. I bring Hatate's name in it again. Hatate was neither here nor there. It felt as if your midfield for me was McGregor, Bernardo, and Maeda, who was coming in central. Hatate was just another body in there and carrying it. He was just carrying.
He had the ball a few times, and there was a couple of times as well, and you were just expecting someone to come off for him, and it didn't seem to happen. It's just, for me, he wasn't on it at all. Normally you get a good pass or a wee bit of magic here and there. I just think, I don't know whether he was trying too hard or whether he wasn't getting enough time on the ball. But for me, Hatate was way off. And it's hard for me to say, because you know what, the guy's been brilliant the last 3-4 games. He's been incredible. Obviously, I've been singing his praises, and I've had to hold my hand up when he's been off the pace. And last night he was completely off the pace along with a few others. But like you said there about Bernardo as well, Steve, when he came on, he was digging in. He was jumping into tackles, and he was making players actually think about it. He was pressing. He was doing a bit. So, it was good to see that level of commitment for people coming off the bench, and even Yang.
We see that just before the subs come on. Obviously, we get Ika come on. We get Forrest Joe Donnelly's favourite. We get Yang coming on, and the thing is again, we make these changes before the changes come about. We mention that he's offside. There's a Kyogo chance.
Yes.
Again, I was cussing that one. Now, I know in the fullness of time it doesn't matter, and they'll be offside and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of just summing up our night, it was one magic moment from Maeda with an unfortunate self-designed own goal. They obviously get another one chopped off, which is offside. But again, just for balance, they take that chance when they get it. That's one thing that you say, that they had a couple of shots where they were testing the goalkeeper. I think they had the better quality of chances, and they put the ball in the net when they're offered a chance. For me, that's just the kind of thing. I know it doesn't matter, like we talk about, Steve, but you've got to take it. You've got to, at least when they're presented with a chance, you put the ball in the net, and then if it gets ruled out, then so be it. Because see if Kyogo hits that net, the place goes wild.
Yes.
If it gets cut off, then it's like, right, let's get it back. And I think it changes the dynamic, the confidence in the team, the confidence and the belief in the stadium. Whereas when you miss it, you're still sitting there and going, right, okay, we're one each, but this is just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, it does. It gives you that belief. It gives you that wee boost that I think the game needed. It needed somebody just to grab it by the scruff of the neck and go for it. They always do say play to the whistle. There wasn't any whistle when Kyogo hits it, but yeah, like you say, Steve, we'll bury it, put it in the back of the net, and then worry about it after. That's what VAR's there for. So yeah, 100%. You've got to just finish it. I thought Adam Ida, when he come on as well, got himself about, won a few tackles, won a few dangerous free kicks for us. The big guy held the ball up well. So for me, there wasn't any standout performances. Probably, like you said, Trusty was good. For me, Schmeichel's had a good game as well.
I think across the board for me, Paddy, I would have to say it's sixes. It's sixes with the rare anomaly of 7.
Trusty the 7, yeah.
Trusty, probably Schmeichel, despite positionally being mad and part of a collective at fault for the first goal. He does make vital saves. He makes a couple of saves. So you've got to give him, does his job. I think Carter Vickers and Trusty defensively were very good. I thought they'd done the basics of their role well without fanfare. So you've got to give at least a wee bit of credit there. Trusty just looked, and it's very, very strange. I don't know what it is. Can't put my finger on it, but the whole game in general, and as we say, Carter Vickers owes us nothing. He just didn't seem himself, and I really can't understand why. He looked a wee bit lost. He looked a bit strangely low in confidence, whereas the man beside him, Trusty, was the guy who he was the normal glowing bit of confidence that you would get for Carter Vickers. Was chucking himself into the tackles, putting himself about, being physical and really digging in. He was the standout of the two centre halves, and for me, it was the man of the match. And I think that really just sums up how the game fell away. As he says, as McLaughlin saying, yep, Maeda gets a 7 because he scores and he has a wee bit of a better flash in the second half. But other than that, maybe Trusty, Schmeichel, Maeda, everybody else is maybe 6s. I saw some lofty ratings for some people giving, Kuhn, for example, a 7 because he made a couple of runs. But at the end of the day, we're just talking about what we saw with our eyes. It's irrelevant in the fullness of time. We've got another point. We're well on the road to qualification, but it just was a wee bit underwhelming. That's the only word I can use. When I left the stadium, I felt underwhelmed.
Yeah.
I didn't feel entitled getting in, but I did feel confident. And again, I think that it's felt more like a game where you're disappointed because you know what you're capable of. It's not because you went in there and had an absolute stinker and get torn apart. You've just visibly, you've been able to see that we've just not reached our level. It felt like third gear, and we couldn't get into fourth and fifth because the gears were broken.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, a Celtic performing like we did against RB Leipzig destroys that team against that Bruges team. We would absolutely annihilate them. Celtic were poor, however, Bruges were decent. And to come away with a draw.
And I would say, mate, sorry to jump in, I would say that's all they were. Decent. I don't think they were ever tested. There was never really a real sustained period that we've seen in previous games where Celtic get their foot in the ball and they're really pressuring. There was no real sustained period of pressure where we asked them serious questions to see what they were truly made of. Did we make it easy for them? Did we make it comfortable? Yes, I would say that.
Yeah, that's it, mate. At the end of the day, we came up against a side that were decent, and we weren't. We played poor. If we played our game, if we were a decent side on the night, we'd have beat them. If we get a couple of 8 performers in there, then it's a different result. And at the end of the day, listen, 8 points from these games, 3 more to go. Zagreb, Young Boys, and Villa. So I'm pretty confident that we'll get through it. Do you know what I mean?
So, Paddy, see to sort of wrap up the general performance and the lay of the land of where we find ourselves after that game. Yeah, it's disappointment. It's not rage. It's not whatever. It's disappointment. It felt like a game that we could have done so much more in. Again, I refer to the last game, and maybe the way that we played against Leipzig set the bar and the expectation so high. Again, bring it back. If you were offered 8 points at this stage, you would have taken it. But rightfully so, perceptions, expectations, they all shift as things get better and things start to improve. But I think a lot of people are leaving there and they felt a wee bit disappointed. When the smoke settled, you looked at it and went, you know what, it is an improvement. And the thing that I did say is I felt that the positive, and it says there, we've proven a point despite an average performance. And that point is that we are now finding a way in Europe. It might not be nice at times, but it's back to what we saw under the likes of Lenny or the likes of Strachan or at times O'Neill, where you maybe didn't have the best performance, but you managed to get something out of it. And that's the best thing about it, is at least being able to pull yourself back up and not perform at your best, but still come away with something that benefits you.
100%, mate. You said that before when we spoke about it as well, and you said that last year, if we go 1 down, we're going to end up 2 down, 3 down, and we'll lose that game. The heads would have went down. We would have just crumbled under the pressure. But we seem to have this resilience now. I mean, we lose Palmer's brought that in.
Plenty off it.
He's resilience. But listen, that's what we need. We need that bite. We need that passion to get in there and actually fight back. And we've seen that, like we said, when Valle and Bernardo come on, you've seen a bit of passion, a bit of bite come back into the game. And it just so happened that obviously Valle was involved for the goal. So, yeah, listen, 1 each draw out of that. Did we deserve it? Probably not, but I'll take it.
Well, that's it. Sometimes you've just got to take the points no matter how they come. Win ugly, draw ugly, it doesn't matter. And as it says there, you know, when you see the draw, you thought we'd get 11 or 12 points. That's what we say is, you know, 10 points is the golden number. We're still on track for that. See, just to reflect, Paddy, before we move on, talk about what's coming up. What do you think? Was it just one of those nights, or do you think that perhaps previously, when we've looked at the last games, when we looked at Leipzig, when we looked at Atalanta, the 2 games, the real turning point games in this campaign so far, where if we're being honest, both from the critics' standpoint and from a large portion of fan base, expectancy was low.
Yes.
Those were top games, so expectancy was low. So whenever you get that vital point against Atalanta and then you go and come back and do what we've done and slit the throat and put to bed, you know, Leipzig against the odds, does that change the perception when you're now getting into that game going, well, Club Brugge, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Did we take it lightly as fans, as players? I don't believe there's ever complacency among it, but I'm just trying to put my finger on it, mate. What is the reason? How did it come about?
On a personal note, I went into that game quite confident last night. I really did. I thought we would have beat them. I thought we'd have outplayed them. I thought we'd have had too much for them. But I didn't expect them to be as set up as they were. I didn't expect them to press us as high as what they did. And I thought, come the end of it, a draw flattered us. So I was quite happy to get out of it. I don't really know about where it's the expectation and stuff. I don't think that would knuckle down to the players. I don't think they would have went into that expecting it. I think they're professional enough to know at this stage there are no Diddy teams. I think, I mean, even Young Boys, we're going in there against Young Boys and going, yeah, that's a guaranteed 3 points. Look where they're sitting in the group stage. But you know what? There's no team in this where we can turn around and say that's a guaranteed win for us, because it's not.
I think if we look at the games ahead, Paddy, and this is the thing, I keep on singing the praises of this new format.
Yes.
It is fine margins, and that's another cliche that I bloody hate, but I have to say it. Because that result last night was the difference between us being one off as far up as sixth in the table to being where we find ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Now, fortunately for us, when you look at the remaining games, for some of those bigger teams, there's some big fixtures in there. But the reality is, we now go into Zagreb, and we were looking at that as a game. They're another surprise package. That's going to be a tough game. I'm looking at that and saying minimum a point. Minimum a point here is what we need to get.
Yeah.
I would hate for us to... I'm still confident. And again, no disrespect. You mentioned Young Boys of Bern. However, I'm just going to be blasé about it. We should beat Young Boys of Bern. See if we don't... And I'll say it right now. See if Celtic don't beat Young Boys of Bern. That is a disaster. That one is a disaster. If Celtic do not beat them, it just... it almost undoes all the good work up to that point, because that is the one that we should be doing, regardless of there's no bad teams in this Champions League. They are cannon fodder. Celtic should be beating Young Boys of Bern, so I'm shelving that one aside. Dinamo Zagreb, important for us to at least try and get a point minimum, because the way that table's so fluid and moving, I still think that we would be able to get ourselves, if dragging ourselves over the line with a win against Young Boys, for talking sake, I think we'll still go over the line, but we could quickly find ourselves down that bottom end, hovering around the 24 again.
Yeah.
If results don't go our way elsewhere, and it's so cutthroat, and even looking at the goal difference, we're on an absolute even keel 0. So we need to take all these factors into account, and that just maybe intensifies the importance of that game last night. And that's why last night, as much as it's a vital point gained, and we'll take it gladly, it does just turn the screw a wee bit on the pressure for the next one, I think.
Aye, 100%, mate. And like you said, you look at the teams round about us. You've got Borussia, not Borussia Dortmund, sorry, they're way up. You've got Bayern Munich, you've got Real Madrid, PSG, Juventus. Like, all of these teams are kind of in and around that area. Atletico Madrid, and it's quite daunting to think that teams like that are going to be in this qualifying part. That's who we could essentially get. But listen, for me, going into it, like you said, I'd love to be super confident going into the Young Boys game, and I probably will be come the time. I'm obviously just feeling a little bit of it because we've come away with a one each draw there. But going away to Zagreb, sorry, I'd be more than happy with a draw out there.
100%.
But obviously, I'd like to push for the win.
But this is a positive as well, Paddy. Listen to the conversations, as Craig says. Listen to the conversation. That shows the progress that we are making.
Yeah.
Where we're having these conversations and saying, we should be in that numbers at sort of 6 and above, or 6 and below, rather than 20. That's positive. Now, it doesn't make you entitled. Some people may get ahead of themselves, but as expectancies do change, and I think it just, for me, it shows that this is the glorious thing about this new setup. It's so fluid and it's so unexpected. But it's crazy at the same time, because you can have such a great campaign that we've had so far, and teams will have been the same boat as us, but they could also capitulate and find themselves at the picture in the blink of an eye. So the roulette that is European football, the high stakes are a lot higher than they've ever been.
Yeah, I know, that's it. I wonder who will get in our games next year as well. That'll be fun.
Well, and this is the thing as well. Obviously, for me, trying minimum point against Zagreb, that'd be huge. And I think even if we don't, I think beating Young Boys of Bern, which I fully am going to, nail my colours to the mast, I think we'll do. I think that 10 points will keep us in that top 24 comfortably. Yes. Maybe not comfortably, but we'll be able to finish in that top 24 with 10 points. 11 points would really just sweeten the nut and make it more secure. And of course, hey, you know what I mean? Get another 6 would be even better again. Because remember, in the top 24 as well, there's a bracket where if you, depending on how far up you finish, you can be seeded in that draw as well. So that comes into its own as well. That's something important to think about as well. There's many variables to this new playoff setup.
I'm learning every single day about it. Everybody you speak to seems to know some wee thing that's happening and stuff as well, and everybody's giving you a wee kind of heads up on it. So that I didn't know that as well. So that if you finish basically in the top 16, then essentially
so
between 8 and 16,
your top 8. So you've got your top 8. Boom, you're done. You're through.
Straight
you don't play it, and you've got your 8 and below, and then they split that in half. So you've got like a seeded group, and then it's so it's not a complete free for all. So, but there you go. I'm expecting Real Madrid. Real Madrid are hovering about. They could be your 24th place one. Do you know what I mean? So, actually, depending on who's maybe in that seeded batch, you maybe don't want to be in there. Do you know what I mean?
It's mad, isn't it? I know. It's absolutely crazy to think the teams that you could get. Aye.
And I think with some of the big teams and the big names you've mentioned, it would be surprised. If some of the big boys get knocked out, I wouldn't be surprised if I see next season we'll just go back to groups of 5 or something like that.
Aye,
because they don't want the threat. But no, look, see, for all that it was, we shelve it, we put it away in a compartmentalise it in a wee box and put it away. Was it disappointing? Yeah, it was disappointing. But as we say, we're in a positive position.
Yeah.
You probably couldn't have imagined, you probably couldn't have envisioned, given previous form, that we'd have this development, that we'd be doing as well as we have. You know, we're still unbeaten at Celtic Park.
Yes.
That's the key point. We've got another very, very winnable game coming up at Celtic Park, and we've got 2 away games. You know, they'll be what they'll be, particularly the last one. We'll see how that goes. But I think we're making good strides in Europe. We're seeing the right sort of formula happening. And again, it's minor tweaks here and there.
Yes.
Things are looking good.
100%, mate. Listen, we've got the point out of that game, and like you said, if you can win or draw dirty, then you take it. It wasn't a dirty result, but you know what? We didn't play the best, and we got out of it without a defeat. So, yeah, you take it and you carry on. And like you said, if we get 3 points for the young boys game, I would fully expect that to put us through.
11 points. I think, I'm going to say will get you through. They will get you through. If you can make that 12, or you can make that even 15, that even better.
Yeah.
Get it up, get it right up there. So, oh God, look at me, my maths are well off. 13, sorry. If you can make it, if you can get the draw and a win, or you can get 2 wins, even better. I think it's just about trying to alleviate the pressure on us. The next one's going to be huge, obviously, and as we say, it just puts a wee bit more pressure on it for us to get a good performance away. I've got the confidence we'll do it though, Paddy, and we'll see how it goes. But that's that, and we've got other fish to fry. We've got the domestic back to action at the weekend. I'm fully confident to do that. Side note, in the league, Aberdeen against Hibs. Wow, unbelievable.
Crazy. Talk about
I'm going to be confident, mate. I look forward to being 5 points ahead at the weekend of Aberdeen, and still with a good breakwater on against Rangers. So there you go. Who, incidentally, in case you know, Rangers are apparently back because they're beating the team that are 34th in their European table and sitting 5th in the French league. What are you going to do about it? But you know what? In a weird way, I'm actually quite happy because it'll just keep him about longer. Just putting a big sticky plaster over an axe wound. I like it.
Aye, that's it, exactly. And that's what they do. Listen, it's like I've said before, Steve, and I'll continue to say it on here. They are not our competition. They are our entertainment. And we will happily sit here and let them paper over the cracks and, like you said, stick a plaster over an axe wound, because that's all they're doing. Absolutely, they are the gift that keeps on giving it, and just let them keep on giving it, because do you know what? Champions League isn't for everyone, is it?
Oh, no, it's not. Do you know what? If you want to look at peak desperation, I've seen an absolute belter of a tweet or a post. I don't know what you call it now because it's X, where someone says, beating Brugge at home's not for everybody. It was a post for 1993. 1993. It was the spectre of Rangers 1872, that one. It wasn't even Rangers. So, exactly. do you know what I mean? But that's it. It's all fun and games, isn't it, in football rivalry. But no, listen, thank you very much for everybody taking time to join us. It says, look, we know you're secretly watching Rangers in the background. That's what it is. I would have had a half at 1-0. Boom. Telly half. But there you go. That's why I mean, Paddy are here. All about the Celtic, mate.
All about the Celtic. John says there as well, he's put in there $500,000 for the draw. Brilliant. That's incredible. Do you know what?
And here's the thing as well. We're adding, every point brings more pounds, and it gives us a position where we find ourselves in January and we can make some moves, because I fully expect us to have a minimum and an additional 2 games. And why not try to make the best fist of that as you possibly can?
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
That $500,000 and a win against young boys, that pays for Alex Valle. So there you go. Let's get it done. Bring them in.
Absolutely. Anyway, thank you very much to everybody for joining us. Just before we go, a couple of things I want to remind you of. Firstly is this. We are still doing collections, taking in things for the Christmas toy drive in our local area. Yep. So if you want to donate to that, you can give us a DM on our X account. We will travel, we'll pick stuff up, we can make informed. That's the first thing. And also more of the Celtic spirit as well. As you'll have seen, the Green Brigade are doing their usual food bank collection at the game at the weekend. A truly worthy cause, worth contributing to if you can, because it doesn't, there's a lot less fortunate people in the world than the likes of ourselves and yourselves out there as well. So anything that we can do at this time of year, we are donations for these various causes. If you're in a position to do it, then we'd encourage you to get on board with that. Okay, so thanks for joining us, Paddy. Thanks for taking the time after your busy shift and coming on here to talk about, let's face it, not the best game, but a good result in the end ultimately.
That's it, mate. Listen, it's always a pleasure to talk about Celtic. Breaks the norm out here as well. Sitting in the North Sea, the weather's been a bit horrible the last few days.
Surely it's not like, I mean, it can't be cold out there, can it?
Well, you think you guys have had it bad, you want to see it out here. It's a wee bit different. But listen, it pays the bills, doesn't it? And Celtic always breaks that up. So I'm just looking forward to the weekend now, get that out of the way. And then it's home straight for me.
Absolutely.
Get back down the road and we can
we'll be back. We'll be back to cover Ross County in some capacity. We'll see how that one goes. I've got a night out on Saturday, but I'll be there. I'll be making it happen. We'll be here to talk about it. So anyway, until the next time, take care of yourselves. Thank you very much. Continue to support Celtic Order, and hail.